Circle Line is a very ambitious project, never before in Singapore. It's Singapore's first monster movie. We're all pretty proud of it that finally we finished it. I think it'll be quite enjoyable lah.
Like this show? Then rate it 5 stars and subscribe to us on YouTube, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Uncool is a podcast by creatives at work. It is produced, written, and hosted by Sean Lee Win Cheong and co-hosted by Yenling Lo, co-produced by Raven Lim, and edited by Ray Ng. Uncool. It's cool to be uncool.
Happy New Year this time, of course, it's 2023. I wish you everything nice this special time of the year. And speaking of specials, today is an Uncool special. Why? It's because we are going to do uncool things to do this month. The uncool thing to do this month, what is it? Well, it is billed as Singapore's first monster feature film, Circle Line. We have with us Andie Chen, and he's one of the stars of the show. And of course, Juan, he is the Juan Foo, he's the producer. I think I pronounced your name correct, Juan. Hello!
Juan is fine.
Oh, Juan. Okay, so maybe Juan, you can kick us off and unpack this for us. Tell us, what exactly is Circle Line about?
Okay, cool. Circle Line, thanks everybody, and thank you Uncool for having us. Circle Line is a very ambitious project, never before in Singapore. We're very proud to have completed it. Rantings later, but it's Singapore's first monster movie, and we are going to actually put the monster in our great transport, which is basically the subway. The story setting is basically just an unnamed Asian city, but I think everybody who takes transport will understand that it's basically about the urban Asian story. So there's a bit of a mystery, right? There's a bit of a thrill, there's a bit of social messaging, there's a bit of parent-child. I think it's one of my more commercial movies to date. So please come down and support. It's actually in the cinemas in KL and also in Singapore, actually. Yeah, I mean, I know it's a spiel, but we're all pretty proud of it that finally we finished it. But check it out, Singapore's first monster movie with a bit of social messaging. I think it'll be quite enjoyable lah.
And hopefully one day we'll see it on one of the streaming platforms soon as well.
Yes, hopefully.
Don't count on that.
Yeah.
Please go and watch in the theaters first.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm basically the station master. Right, so if hits the fan, then basically I'm the guy. My head's on the line. So I'm trying to figure out what exactly is happening in conjunction of whatever information we are getting from the train side, right? So I'm basically that part of the story.
No spoilers, but then the idea here is that we want to actually feature a bit of crisis management. So Andy's character is the station master and he's like, oh, something happened. So how? Do we verify or not? Yeah,
exactly.
correct.
There's a lot of dynamics within the station control as well. There are people who wants to cover their asses. There are people who wants to put the hostages as priority. There's the corporation. There's the police.
Andy a bit confused with his dual roles. There's no hostages in Circle Line.
As not hostages, victims are people that are in crisis.
The passengers.
But who used to say hostages are I say. So basically, there is a lot of politics and basically crisis management going on, but we are basically gambling on the lives of the people in the train. So basically, that's the part that I'm playing in the movie.
So that this is a train that is not in an unnamed Asian country, yeah? Oh.
Yes. We want to make it generic, but I think viewers will know that a lot of the inside jokes, you will know it's about train stoppages, delays. But the funny part is, in all our Southeast Asian neighbors, there are also train stoppages and delays. So I think that's also quite universal in that sense. Yeah.
So how are the trains in Taipei?
Trains in Taipei, quite well done. I mean, comparable to the MRT in Singapore.
The trains in Tokyo very much on time. I know I'm digressing.
I know we're all digressing, but
one of the things that I want to say also is actually a few years back, if I'm not wrong, there was a monitor lizard that was caught under a SMRT train. So it's very interesting. There's a lot of realism in our connect.
but of course, the overall takeaway is it's still very safe to take trains. Don't worry.
Yeah, definitely. The monster is in your heart. You must overcome the monster. Yeah.
So Andy, how does this role compare then to the other roles that you've ever played in your long career?
I think when I stepped onto the set, it was a very, very well done set. It was definitely one of the biggest set I've been onto. My interaction with the green screen is minimal in the control room. but I was on set, and I did watch some of their green screen filming and also some of the footages that they show me. And it's definitely something very out of our comfort zone. It's quite CG heavy, I mean, to say the least, right? Well, the lead character is a CG character. So I think it's really pushing the boundaries. And it's not an easy boundary to push because there's a lot of money involved, a lot of post-production involved, and a lot of unknowns involved. So to me, I like to be part of something historical. I mean, I'm very glad that Juan looked for me to be part of this project, and just to be part of it, because this will be something that people will talk about, right? I mean, like, or our first venture into a film like that. It's very, very rare, very, very rare, given our size, given our budget, given even just the creative box that most Singaporeans have. I think it's a bold step forward, lah. Yeah.
The lead is a CG character. So what is it like to act along like a CG character then?
I mean, to be fair, I don't really see the monster since I was in the control station, right? So I don't think I'm the best person to answer that. But for me, my part, right? I think we are playing imaginary situations and crises, lah. So basically, in that sense, we are imagining what's happening. And I know the director took a very different approach with filming the monster and in the carriage and filming the control station. So in the control station, it was almost like we flow, and the director was capturing whatever was happening. So there was some spontaneous reactions. There was some things that was just happening and playing off each other. And I think the director wanted that tension. The camera was rolling and the camera was panning around, moving around to create that realism. So I think there's something from my side that I thought was quite interesting. Try, I think you should tell them about the green screen part.
Yeah, I think this is a pretty much visual effects heavy kind of film. We are not shy about it. I think it is really first time in Singapore, and we really want to show that there is a lot we can do with the creativity and the technology that we have, not to mention the talent. So yeah, I think it is an interesting Singapore film to be able to put on screen. The monster is the kind of like the lead character. I won't say how it looks like, but I think if you dig up the social media, you may find a bit of glimpses. And this character and the entire station control story is exactly as what Andie said. We kind of like put it as a crisis management disaster kind of setting. So the flow was there. It was really about, okay, we are faced with this. How do we verify? So Andie is quite correct to say that, yeah, as far as he's concerned, he has only taken peeks, at the monster and the subway and everything, because a lot of his character was, I'm at the HQ, what do I do? But I think for me, lah, I mean, I don't know about the rest of you, but for me, I like the control room scenes the best, because it's really about,
You're just saying
what's
that because
going
I'm
on.
here, lah. Don't bluff.
No, I really like those. I really like those.
You're saying
Because
because it's the fastest to shoot from a producer's
yes, it's the
point.
fastest
The
to shoot
fastest
also.
to shoot.
Fair
That's
enough.
why.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Sean
We
also
underran.
understands
We
that.
underran, right? Remember?
Yeah. It's one of those. I mean, for those of you who are in the production line, it's my very first production that we actually can wrap like 2 hours early. Then the crew went to play badminton. Go and eat steamboat whatever. I'm like, hey, are you sure this happening?
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
I think also because all those CG heavy things, it's all very planned, right? I mean, you can't deviate too much from it, otherwise you're going to get all your problems with your compositing later and so on.
It was quite restrictive, but I think thankfully the director, which is JD Chua, I think we definitely worked a lot on actually the pre-planning and the pre-visualization. So JD Chua, the director, I mean, he's a common friend and everybody knows him, right? We really, really kind of like pushed it to the limits in terms of the prep. I mean, if he was here, he will complain to you. We storyboarded the film like so many times, changed the version. Then we did a test shoot to look at the stunts. We did a test shoot to look at the visual effects. We pre-visualized the film again. Then we realized, okay, this one cannot. Okay, change. After we shot again, this one change. So yeah, I think it's really a great learning experience, for the filmmakers involved, as to the kind of quality and the kind of procedures you really need for a visual effects show. That's something that we are quite proud of. We learned a lot of things. I wouldn't say wasted time, but we spent a lot of time learning, rejigging and everything. And I think it's really testimony to what we can actually push out within the region. It has been quite interesting as a ride. I mean, you guys have to
As
watch
a
it
ride, okay.
Yeah, pun intended, right? And it has come full circle.
No, too much.
So, Andy, this was done 3 years ago for you.
4 5 years ago.
So you filmed this 5 years ago. Juan, you worked on this obviously longer than that.
Yeah, 9 years. Yeah.
9 years. Wow.
From ideation to delivery on screen is 9 years for me and the executive producer lah. But the rest all fell into place.
How does it feel now to know that 9 years of your, I mean, especially for you, Juan, after 9 years of your life is now up there, done for everyone to see.
I think work is never done lah, especially when talk about movies, right? So here and there you see it, you'll be like, yeah, actually could have done better. Oh, this one could have actually put it in. Oh, this one could have taken it out. I mean, I don't want to be a bit of a poser or whatever, but a lot of the filmmakers will say, oh, art is never done, only abandoned, that kind of thing. But for me, it's really, as a producer, you see something, you still want to improve it, then you still think about, okay, will the market actually appreciate this? What is the trend like and stuff like that. So yeah, 9 years of it, I think good lah. I mean, I would always say I kept to my word lah, because when I was first tasked to do this by other stakeholders, right? I said, okay lah, I will try my best to deliver Singapore's first monster film, like it or not, right? And then we'll see how far we can go with it lah. So I mean, I think I have completed the promise, so to speak. Whether is it going to be embraced, by the audience, it's really up to you guys. Whether is it going to be bought over by a Hollywood studio for remake? Hint, hint. Okay, I still don't know. But then there's a certain level of achievement, and yeah, lah, I can say that, okay, let's finish this. I want to move on to something new.
Clearly, you spent 9 years of a lot of your time on this, and of course, you've made the first monster film. What would you say to anyone who has that kind of dream and that I'm going to commit so many years to make this a genre film like that? What advice would you give?
I think wow, that's a tough one. I think bottom line for producers is really about understanding what you can and cannot do, and bring in the correct people to help you do that, right? I think the team is great. I think we managed to bring in the people that really wanted to do this, right? Kudos to them, right? Sure, there will be friction, and there will be resistance to change and stuff like that. But I think whatever it is, this is also a journey, and it's a learning journey for everybody. So I would say, yeah, just bring in the correct people for your task. I think a monster movie, to be a bit more specific, lah. I think uh, one thing that I can probably advise is, a plan is different from a strategy. Sometimes we are too caught up with the planning, right? Let's do A to Z, right? But then I think you have to, as a producer, you have to really think further than that, which is to strategize. So why A, why B, etc., etc. And then once you form that, I think the baby will have a better chance lah, in that sense. I think I learned that. I think it's validated, through my mistakes and through how I overcame them. So yeah, I think, I don't know that I'm generalizing, but I think as a producer, not only should you plan, but you should strategize and bring in the correct people for the story you want to tell lah. Yeah, I guess
Totally
that's
get you. I
yeah.
totally get you. You said planning. The plan is, planning is not necessarily the strategy. I
Yeah,
mean,
exactly,
I've had
exactly.
so many times I've gone planning and I've planned for this and to shoot it this way or that. I mean, not for film, of course, but in general. And then I go down there and I'd be like, okay, but the location doesn't allow me to do that.
Yeah.
Or whatever constraint. And then I'd be like, crap. So that is very, 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 very pertinent. I think you're working with some people that are even based in as far away as in South America, right?
Yes, yes.
So maybe you can tell us a bit more about that.
Okay. We actually had, during pre-production and pre-visualization, we had consulted Argentinian producers of visual effects to actually talk about, how do you shape, the process and the workflow, which really helped a lot. We had meetings with them, over Zoom and Skype, to actually chat about it. Myself and the director, even our cinematographer. We also hired a Spanish monster designer Victor Marin. He's very helpful, and he's been actually pushing for Circle Line in Spain. We have actually certain news reports and stuff like that. We wanted foreign eyes to design a bit of the monster. I know on bloodydisgusting.com they give it a hint. It's a mix of a rat and a lizard. That was the initial idea, but the monster designer, the creature designer, kind of evolved it also. So kudos to that. We had our Thai partners involved in visual effects and audio, and the final mix. We also had a lot of people in terms of visual effects and animation, right? So we have a lot of people in India, Bangalore. We also had people in Malaysia uh, that really contributed. So kudos to you guys. Omens, KL, right? You guys really helped us a lot too. Which is why I'm actually very proud that it's really a Southeast Asian kind of thing. Hierarchically, the creative kind of decisions were in Singapore, but there was a lot of support within the region that we kind of like want to emulate, and yeah, we just want to say, hey, actually, yeah, we can do pretty good stuff. Yeah, try us out,
Sounds
kind of
very
thing.
almost international. You went all the way to
Almost.
South America, even to Europe, and wow, it's
Yeah, we
very
went to
very
South America.
global.
Yeah, we went to South America because these visual effects producers and supervisors actually worked on Asian films before. So we kind of tracked them down and we kind of gave them, a holler and say, hey, maybe you can help us. So they kind of gave us, certain frameworks to use. Obviously, the frameworks change, right? And it evolves to the complexities of what we wanted. But it was a good kickstart, lah. I think to everybody that has contributed in one way or another, I really want to say thank you very much. I mean, as a producer, I really appreciate it. Some things we took on, some things we didn't, right? But I think in the end, it's something that I think it's worth the big screen. Check it out. If it's not up to par, yeah, I mean, just give us a tinkle. We'll chat about it, and then we'll do better the next time. Lah. It's really an interesting project, like I must say. Yeah.
How does anyone even get the stamina to do the same thing for 9? I mean, for 9 years, especially
A
one.
foot at a time.
Yeah,
There's no
exactly.
way
One
back.
year. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
There's no way back. You just have to take it in, plan for it to go in a straight line, so supposedly. But yeah, I mean, it's been really quite an interesting ride because really from scratch, from the ideation of so-called the executive producer coming to tell me, hey, I want to make Singapore's first monster film. Let's do it together. Until now, yeah, it's been 9 years. So we looked through stories. We hired people to help us. We wrote the script together with again the script writers, right? We raised the money. We did the test shoots. We raised more money. We hired Andy and the rest for the shoot in 2018. We did I think post production specifically for the visual effects. Easily 1.5 or 2 years, because again there was always tweaking. What did we do? What didn't we do? Then we were all ready to launch in 2020, right? We
Best
had it.
time of in history.
Yeah,
To
yeah,
launch a
right.
movie.
So one
We all
of
know
those
what
things
happened.
lah. Yeah, so
Yeah.
we were actually kind of like gearing it up because it was Comic Con, right? Singapore Comic Con. We did a kind of like promo pre-release, a teaser, right? December 2019 Comic Con, and we said, okay, Singapore's first monster film, interesting, talking about crisis, motherhood, blah 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 blah. Stay tuned. Wow. Then okay, the bigger
Then
monster
really
called
stay
COVID
tuned.
came in. Yeah, stay tuned until 2 years later, right? Which is kind of sad, but I think we took the time to kind of like refine a bit of things, to get more feedback on certain storylines, on certain visual effects things, and then we slowly tweak it together, and yeah lah, so we have come to a head. Hopefully, yeah lah, it's something that people will be excited about to watch. I mean, it's not going to be like Marvel or whatever, but I think it's an interesting milestone lah, specifically for Singapore, and I also say for Singapore and the region, because we had a lot of regional support. Our Malaysian partners, our Thai partners. Yeah, it's pretty interesting lah. It's pretty interesting.
I think I was like 8 kg lighter, and like my hair was just completely different.
Yeah, yeah.
But I feel like actually I was sort of involved slightly before the rest of the cast. JD was a friend, Juan was a friend. We were talking about the script, and also so I mean, to me, I feel like regardless of the show, which I think is a labor of hard work. I have to say, a labor of a lot of effort and a lot of trials and tribulation. But regardless of this, right, I think they've positioned themselves in a place regionally to be able to handle projects of this skill and also this specific speciality, which is actually a very broad, it's a very genre CGI thing, which is very, very, very needed in our region. So I think, to me, I hope it is a first step to many more of a project like this to come. And I think it opens up a lot of doors and possibilities, and that's a great thing.
Yeah, I just want to also talk a bit about the kind of thinking behind it, lah. I mean, as a producer, and I mean, Andy will know what I'm trying to say. So I think in the Singapore so-called motion picture world, right, what do we have? We have a lot of Jack Neo stuff. We have a lot of comedy. We have a lot of horror, and that's one extreme, And then the other side of it is we have a lot of world cinema. We have a lot of, well, for lack of a better word, art house cinema, right, which travels, wins awards by great filmmakers. But there's this, middle ground that I always feel as a producer that is kind of like largely untapped, which is really about pure entertainment, mainstream audience. But again, to echo what Andy has mentioned, this is a wide berth. But I think there are opportunities here, to actually tell entertaining stories and put a bit of production quality and art in it. So I think, the production company behind this, which is Taipan Films and actually Omens, I think there is that commitment to see what we can do in this so-called middle ground, right? Because actually it's the middle ground that actually gets the audience talking. People want something more, right? People want stories, people want scale, people want to go into the cinema to watch something that is spectacular but feel good about themselves. I mean, of course, sometimes your film festival ones will actually offer that, or the other end of the spectrum, which is typical comedies we already, right? So we just want to try something different, and we also know that technology will drive so-called entertainment. So again, kudos to the executive producer and all the people that actually stuck with us. It's really about, okay, now come, let's try this out. Yeah, xiong crazy lah, but I think we push through lah. Compromises confirm have one, right? Could we, should we, can we, regret always, right? But I think it's something that is worth the big screen. So again, sorry to plug this, but I think it's worth your time in the cinema. And as the producer, and I'm sure Andy will agree, we will be more than happy to engage again to see how we can do this better, how we can learn, how we can shape this, because I think really, really this kind of storytelling is here to stay, lah. Yeah. Yeah.
And of course, we are not throwing shade at all the comedies and the Jack Neo things that you mentioned. Yeah.
Oh, no, not at all.
No,
Not
not
at
at
all.
all. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, they obviously they have their own
They are,
success, but
yeah, there are
but
placements, you see. Yeah,
but
exactly.
on that note of placements, because you guys are, as you said, you are trying something different, trying something new. Was it no one has done it before? Was there any moment in your time, whether for Andy, I guess on set, for you, John, over the longer process, including post production, is one where you thought that, oh damn, I'm not gonna live this down. This is gonna stick with me for the rest of when I sleep. I can't sleep tonight, and I'm so uncool now doing this.
The amount of effort and energy compared to Juan is probably quite a lot less significant, lah, right? So for me, it was a great experience, yeah, and it was, for me, the production period was quite concise also, and just to watch the way they are very unique production, so like when I'm on set, everything was storyboarded to the T, so, and everything was done, they knew exactly what they needed to piece it together, because it was such a new project, because it was so CG heavy, that everyone was very well prepped, and they knew exactly, from the sound guy to the director to everyone, the offline editor that was editing on set, everything. So it was very carefully pieced together. So at least for my part, my control room part, I could tell that everyone was very professional. Everybody got their lines down. They're improvising very professionally, and everybody just knew, like, okay, let's do our part as well as possible, because they have a lot of other moving parts to deal with already. So I think that was the energy going in, lah. Yeah.
It was a very methodical production. I think everything was planned, everything was storyboarded. Even if there were minor tweaks after the day shoot, the entire core team, right? The director, the cinematographer, the visual effects supervisors, the assistant directors, they will all huddle and they will say, okay, what did we do today? What are we doing tomorrow? Where can we actually adjust and everything? So it wasn't one of those, for lack of a better word, it's like, never mind lah, just do it lah, that kind of productions, which I'm very thankful for, you know. So it was very, very meticulous. Kudos to the team. I mean, the team that we brought on, really, really, they did their part. Like, it was almost a precision military operation, if I dare say so myself. But again, even then, of course, you got to adjust and you got to actually, play against, certain restrictions and certain changes. But I think, yeah, the production was pretty cool. We shot in Iskandar Malaysia Studios, which is a soundstage just like 45 minutes away from the Singapore border, or is it 15? I can't remember, but really awesome place. You can do a lot of things with that. We shot with a lot of partners. And yeah, I mean, coming back to Andy's role and also the control room, it was very interesting to see how the shoot for the control room was approached lah. I think Andy will attest to that. It was really as if there's something going on, right? And I mean, looking back 5 years, yeah, I think we had a good team. Everybody actually was quite committed, especially in the control room. And I'm not just saying that because you are here, but I think it was fun lah. It's something that is a bit rare lah, and I'm very thankful that it happened on my watch, so to speak lah.
The
Yeah,
production quality, I have to attest, is also very high. Like when we walk into the set, we was like everything was, you can do a close up of almost everything on
yeah,
set.
yes, yes,
Everything
yes,
was beautifully done, completely
yes.
believable, and then that made it so much easier for us to just believe
Go
lah.
in character.
Yeah, get in character. Yeah.
We even use the set for our production meetings at the end of the shoot, which is
Might
quite
as well,
interesting.
might as well use the real estate, man. Use
Yeah,
the
yeah,
real
exactly,
estate. You really got it. So
exactly, exactly.
you've
It was
been
quite funny.
you kept saying how this is fun and it's and all this John, as I mean for you especially, but you've been doing this for a very long time. I think 22 years is an independent producer. How crazy are you?
How
22
crazy
years.
am I?
Walao, what
22
kind of
years.
question is that?
I think I'm
I
quite
think
crazy lah. I think from then on, I mean, we have spoken about projects before, Sean. We have spoken about projects before, Andy.
Because it's like it takes up so much of your time, 9 years, and then it shortens your life probably, but you still continue to do it, right?
Yeah.
So what is the secret then to independent producing, you think? And that keeps you going for this many years.
I think in the end, it's really about getting stories out. I know it's a very idealistic kind of answer, but I think for me as an independent producer, it's always about getting the stories out, getting unique things to be said. I think the drive for me has always been about, hey, this is interesting. Why not? Let's do it. I have many projects that have not been actually produced because it wasn't successful with raising money and all that kind of jazz. But I think every story that I wanted to make has a special part of it that I want to say or be part of, and I think that kind of keeps me going. But today is a good day because today I'm kind of hyped up about Circle Line. But of course, on a bad day, I would say, "What am I doing?" It's really ridiculous. Why am I doing this? I should have taken property. I should have taken accountancy. All the kind of jazz. Yeah, but I think what drives me is to look for the stories lah that is fun. And yeah, I mean this one really really was pitched to me, right? A lot of people who are in the industry will say, "Oh, how did you stumble upon this?" This was actually pitched to me, and I found that was very unique and very interesting. So I said, "Okay, I'll hop on and do this." Yeah, yeah. So I guess you can say from an ideation perspective, yeah, the executive producer came to me and said, "Hey, let's do Singapore's first monster movie." I'm like, wow, okay. Then I said the same thing as you, Sean. So I said, you must be crazy, right? And they say, yeah, never mind, lah, let's do it. Let's prove that Singapore can do something like that. We can work together and then you can find the resources and we'll do it. Lah. So, I mean, in Chinese, it's like, 你上了贼船 lah, you have, embarked on this, dodgy pirate ship lah, but I'm glad that this has actually come to the harbor in a way lah. But it's tough, but I think it's really about telling unique stories. And even for the so-called art house film festival film producers, it's the same thing also, right? It's really about finding a story that you can be inspired by and saying, hey, actually I can do this. Why not? Let's try. Right. But you guys know like it's not been easy. It will never be easy. It may be easier now, maybe, but yeah, it's mad lah. It's mad lah.
Okay, so the very first time I saw a John Foo produced film. I was like 5, and it was called Return to Pontianak. I was like 5 or
No,
6.
you're not 5.
It was like Return to Pontianak. I think that's the year 2000 or something.
Sean, you remember it. Thank you.
I guess that was your first time producing, right? Versus now. So
In
how is
terms
the
of
craft?
producing per se,
Yeah.
lah.
How has the craft changed for
Wow.
producing?
Well, that's a book, man. Return to Pontianak was one of my first feature films. I guess you can say Singapore's version of the Blair Witch Project. For those film people, you may understand that, but it's a modernized take on the Pontianak legend, lah. So those of you who also may not be of Southeast Asian heritage, Pontianak is a female vampire ghost. So that was a horror movie that I did a long, long time ago, which kind of like kicked into this producing so-called career and my interest in telling, I guess, Southeast Asian stories, bring the folklore to life, stuff like that. I think in essence the craft has evolved, but it has not changed. When I say evolved, it's because the craft has become a bit more systematic, whether is it technology or the awareness of media and storytelling, right? But I think it is still not easy to bring people together, lah. But that's also the challenging part. So I mean, in my early days in my own company, um, my motto was bringing people together to make films. Last time a bit idealistic and naive, right? But I kind of still believe it. In some ways, you bring people together to say, hey, let's do this together, and then let's see how far we can go. I think that spirit is there, but things have evolved to be slightly more quicker, because of the awareness, that stories can do well, I mean, I wouldn't say branded content contributor, but people are very aware that, okay, you have to tell a story. And then after that, it's the market, what is the market? So those are the evolutionary paths, which I think may make it so-called more systematic, right? But then bringing the people together and finding the other resources will still be a challenge lah. Yeah, I'm talking about producing per se, but if you're talking about technology and everything, if you go
Oh,
into it,
of course, it's
it's
heaps.
it's like,
Yeah,
yeah, heaps and
it's a heaps. Yeah.
yeah, very very different, right? Very very different. Nowadays you can shoot anything with the iPhone. Oh, feature film, okay, shoot with the iPhone. Park Chang Wook did that, right? Previously it was, wow, must book film, must rent camera. Wow, it's tough.
I'm actually seeing a trend here. You went from horror Pontianak now to monsters. Like,
I don't know, man. Yeah, I think it's interesting.
I don't think we ever see John producing a musical one day or something.
I have actually talked about musicals before, but I think musicals are a challenge for the Singapore and the regional audience. We've actually talked about it before, but I think it's again, as what I mentioned just now, right? I mean, you can plan, but then once you strategize, then you have to really think about all these considerations. Is a musical something that we are ready for? I don't know. I'm not sure. Am I willing to try? Honestly, I'm not too sure.
I go to so many productions nowadays. Of course, not broadcast or not films. Normally, like the corporates, right? They'll be like, "Why your camera so big? Why your camera so big? Why you have so many crew?" I'm like, "Yeah, okay."
Interestingly enough, okay, this one maybe Andy can also chime in. The funny part is other freelance producers have actually told me that sometimes the client will actually ask you, how come with the budget that we give you, how come your camera is so small? So actually clients will kind of like want that pomp and circumstance, and sometimes the freelance producer has no choice but to, so-called err on the side of having big lights and big camera just because the client wants that kind of scale. We never know about these things, in the end it's really about the stories that you want to tell. Yeah.
Okay, and back to you, Andy. So one was talking about what motivates him to stick on a project for so long. I guess in your case is what motivates you to travel to do these projects because you are based in Taiwan. Like what motivates you to come back and shoot in Iskandar and Singapore and so on?
I think for me, acting has become a bit of my calling. Not a bit of my calling, my calling, right? So like I know a lot of people that are actors, they act. I always ask this question to the actors that I'm closer with, like, do you live to act or do you act to live? Right. So I think for a lot of them, the answers is I act to live, right? So my family's what is gives me meaning, my parents or certain other things, like certain projects and passion. And I think I belong to the group of people that, like, in a way I live to act, right? Like, so it's no longer about like the money, the fame. Like, I'm slowly getting, as I grow older, it's getting less and less important to me. Um and I introspect this for like every second of my life, like why am I doing this for? Why is this? And it's just that it is something that is almost given to me as a gift since I was a very young boy, and I feel like I'm here with the storyteller, the filmmaker, and I'm their paint, and I want to be as great a paint as I can, as truthful a paint as I can, and that is just what I can do between action to cut lah, right? And before that, all that prep work is all just research and understanding, but just to be present and to understand that has been my mode of operations for a while now, and therefore searching for that storyteller has become very important to me, right? Because Johnny Depp needs a Tim Burton, right? And for me, I just feel like storytellers, like if I'm not a right paint for them, then there's no value for me to be in this production at all, right? But if I can help tell the story better, I can give more value. So I want to be there. I want to be in front of that storyteller and be that paint for that storyteller. And that's what I'm seeking. I'm seeking that in Singapore. I'm seeking that in Malaysia. I'll seek that in Thailand. I'll seek that in Africa. I'll seek that everywhere. And that's why I'm in Singapore. That's why I'm in Malaysia. That's why I'm based in Taipei. I'm just looking for the storyteller that say like, hey, you are what I need. And to me, I'm very thankful for the audience. I'm very thankful to the EPs. I'm very thankful to the people that feed my family and everything. But eventually, I serve the storyteller. Full stop. That's all I care about, and that is how I operate as for my life at this point of time. Yeah.
So do you ever look back at your older work, like fighting spiders or something, very early ones, and go like, oh man,
Every work. Give me like 3 months after every production, then I look back, I'm like, oh allow, cannot allow. What am I doing? It is a reflection of your. I'm sure it's the same for every artist, right? Because you're constantly growing, you're shedding old beliefs and ideas and craft sets, and then you're understanding new things. And when you just look back, even if it's a very short time, you are a different person, and that difference is most of the time uncomfortable. Yeah. For Circle Line, right, there was a lot of things that I felt like I learned a lot from that production.
During the test screenings, as you have done, I think many people have been picking up on Andie's ponytail. It seems like a character of its own. So maybe Andie, why don't you tell us how long did it take for you to keep that ponytail, and how do you keep to maintain that something like that for so long?
Oh, very difficult. Very difficult. I mean, I naturally look uncool in that long hair. And yeah, but I don't know, like I was saying, like it was just it was a rebellious phase lah. I think I was very tired of doing the same thing over and over again. I was just using my hair as an excuse to try and get out of things, and I have to be very happy that they tolerated my long hair lah, because a station master with a ponytail is a bit progressive.
So yeah. It wasn't a character thing, it was a personal thing, and then you just didn't want to cut.
I think it was a character thing. I mean, it was a personal thing, but then they were like, say, hey, maybe we could tie it this way, and then make his character so it suits his character, which is a bit rebellious in the show as well, right? He does things his way, and then he doesn't really care about like the hierarchy and stuff like that. So he just wants to get things done, and I think that it reflects and I hope it works.
And of course, behind the scenes, the thinking for John is, I'm not going to fight this man over his hair. Let's just get on with it.
And he's so difficult to work with. Allow, no more.
So you went home, your wife didn't like it, then your kids must have been thinking,
no one liked it, okay? No one, absolutely no one liked it, okay? Including myself, okay? But then,
I see.
So it's something that you look back now and you think, oh man, what the hell?
Even at that point of
Uncool.
time, I thought it was like, no, it's not working. I mean, I had a vision of how it was going to look like, and then it didn't turn out that way. And then I was just like, everybody asking me to cut, all the more I don't want to cut. So I was stubborn for quite a while.
And now it seems to have generated its own series of comments for you on the test.
I don't know how it's received. Probably in a very comedic manner.
Right, and next, if Circle Line's a success, people will be like, okay, I want Andie to
with his
do
long
the next
hair
one with a
again.
ponytail. Yeah.
I mean, honestly speaking, character-wise, I feel like it is not the character that shines in the show, but the situation, right? So if you put him in a control room in any other day, he's just another guy. Like, this guy a bit weird. How come he can leave long hair? Nobody else can, right? Maybe like that. But like if in that situation, right, when push comes to shove, how do everybody react? How does he react to his subordinates, to his superior, when the big boss comes down, and when he's on the phone call with people that are suffering? How do you actually, that situation I felt, and the way they captured that situation, I felt was more important than that character himself. So I'll put it there. I'll put it like that, lah. Yeah.
So assuming that John is not in this room, how will you rank it among all the roles you played in your life?
I can't rank it. I can't rank it. Yeah, it's not that far away from my personal character. I would say that. Yeah.
And it took a while, I mean, to get offline. She said so. I think there's a lot of that time that you had to feel so introspective about it. So of course, there are many reasons you should be watching Circle Line. In your opinion, or being the producer, being the star, why don't you give us 3 reasons why everyone should go watch Circle Line? Like, other than because it's got Andie Chen and it's the first monster movie. And
Wow, this one must think one eh. Clock is ticking when we think.
Okay, I go first. I go first, lah. I go
okay,
first.
so yeah, why don't you give us 3 words or 3
Yeah.
reasons to subscribe
Go
Circle
first
Line?
easier
And one
because I'll
job.
say all the more obvious ones.
All right,
Then Joanna will be
and spoiler free, of course.
Spoiler free. Okay, I mean, first of all, most blatantly of all, it's the first monster film in the region, right? So that itself is a breakthrough, and I think that itself is one huge reason, one great reason to give a look. 2, if you want more, right? You want different, you want something else, rather than your usual feed of stuff. You want to see the industry go in another direction. If this interests you, you should definitely. 3, I think just fundamentally the production value is there. Is shot in a way, in a method that is unusual. It has a new director, interesting director. We have a very different way of filming production, and I think all that in all, it will probably come out with in as something that you have never seen before, lah. I'll just say that it's gonna be something that you've never seen before.
Well, actually, now you all keep mentioning monsters. What do you think is so appealing about monsters in films? Actually,
Wow, that's a
everyone's.
PhD paper, man. But okay, let me try to echo that. I think monstrosity on screen, aside from the scale and entertainment, it's really about the subconscious, right? I don't want to make it too cheap, but if you really study, and go and dig up monstrosity in cinema, it's really about subconscious. It's about insecurity, right? It's about like the elephant in the room that nobody wants to talk about, that kind of thing. So not to over intellectualize or chimify it, right? There is also something that I was attracted to, especially during the writing process, and Andy will know this also, because we were talking about, okay, there's a crisis, what's happening, right? And I mean, semi spoiler alert or whatever, as what Andy also mentioned, is that, okay, what do we do? Can we do this or can we do that, and how? Right? And then people will say, don't bother lah, we should actually just cover up. Or people are saying, okay, we should do the right thing. So I think that part is very interesting, and you link it to insecurities, you link it to the unseen problems and stuff like that. So to me, I think the monster in monster movies are like that. I mean, if I were to allude to the monster movies that we know of, right? Pacific Rim, right? This is the cap of Pacific Rim. There's also a lot of underlying things. There's a crisis where people come together, right? It's from another universe. I mean, whatever it is, right? A Godzilla, right? There's a bit of, animal testing. There's a bit of mysterious trace back to your heritage. I mean, all these things are very interesting to talk about. So for us, we were saying, hey, those are monster universes. We can possibly do something, that's based around this region, right? And I think, for those of you who know, the cinema audience, right, there are also other monsters in the region, right? Very long ago, in a galaxy far, far away, in the 90s, Thailand had a monster film, right? And it was based on the mythical bird Garuda, right? So some
Oh,
of you may recall this, but it was a pretty old film. Yeah, so it's like Garuda is a very Southeast Asian, Indian, Indo-Chinese thing. That they also kind of like brought it up, right? And then of course, in Malaysia, you have so many interesting folklore related to monstrosity, which is like, insecurities, elephant in the room. These are great storytelling methods, right? And for me as a producer, it's like, we can actually bring this out and talk about it. And maybe I'm trying to say, because of Circle Line, we kind of can approach these things now. It's a matter of packaging them, right, with technique, which is visual effects and maybe talent, right? Actors like Andy, the directors like JD. It's possible lah. It's to see who is mad enough to do it lah. Yeah.
I'm just thinking as well. Like, okay, if you have a monster, you want to do a monster film, why make it original? Then you keep thinking about how at that point in time, 9 years ago, all the MRT lines were breaking down every day. It's like,
Yeah,
oh
that
yeah,
was also the inspiration.
that's
Yeah.
a wonderful. It's wonderful if something bad happens there or something. So, John, so what other reasons should we, or what other words we use to describe Circle Line, and why we should catch it from the 5th of January, right?
Yeah, from the 5th of January. I think, okay, just to really shout out, you need to watch it in the cinemas, okay, because we need to actually bring in the public audience back to the cinemas, right? Take it as a celebration of getting out of COVID, right? And being more aware of, the community. And we need to keep it in the cinemas so that, the distributor and the exhibitor continue to show it for you guys. Okay, what's the problem for Singapore? Singaporeans are a bit lazy. Okay, yeah, there I've said it. So sorry, but by the time we decide to watch a film, right, the Singapore film, right, yeah, no more already. That's always been our biggest challenge, right? So
Unless you're Black Panther, because they show that 40 times a day.
exactly, right? So sometimes that dynamics of the business is not really known to the general consumer. So you got to really plan and watch a Singapore film, because by the time you say, oh, next week lah, next week, by the time you contemplate 2 weeks later, right, it's not in the cinemas. And you know why? Because the cinema will say, oh, nobody is watching. Right. So I will take Wakanda Forever instead. Right. So it's a very difficult thing, but this is a very producer thing. So yeah, pack the cinemas, bring in the crowd so that you can watch the film eventually. Right. Just now Andy mentioned so many already. I'm actually at a loss for words about three things. So I'm not very sure. I will talk about maybe the storyline. I think the storyline also never before seen. It talks a bit about cover-ups. It talks a bit about mystery, but there is also a very social conscious message in it, which is something about the story going on in the control room. I won't say so much. Actually, I think we say a lot already, but okay, never mind. But I think the control room is very interesting because I think it is really about when the crisis happens, what do you do? Do you do things right or do you do the right thing? Kind of vibe, right? I think the third one, bringing it back to Jesseca Liu. I think the story about parents and their children is also pretty significant, right? We really wanted to release Circle Line in 2020 Mother's Day, right? Because there was that kind of hint there. And there's a kind of interesting story, not to give anything away, twist there, but I think that's also worth it to kind of share. So, when we did test screenings, people will say, oh, we want to know more about that, right? But sometimes, because of how the movie is made and everything, we say, okay, we can only tell this part of the story. Maybe if you're interested, we can actually evolve into so-called the multiverse, which is something that we're exploring. Also, possibly a sequel as a game and stuff like that. But that's really up in the cards. But we must really see how this one really goes up and escalates into something that we want to watch. Yeah. So I think for my side is, yeah, the parent-child stories are interesting. The social message of do things right versus do the right thing, right? I think those are the two.
From the way we've been describing it, it sounds like we need a prequel of Andie Chen's character in the control room.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And that is going to take you another 9 years of your life, man.
Oh, I don't want. Hopefully when things escalate it'll be lesser. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
9 more years, I'll be 14 by then. I can watch it.
Oh man.
Okay, so after all your experiences, and we always ask all our guests this question, of course, because this show is called Uncool, and I'm going to ask you both this. Whether
Wow, tough one.
whether it's specific to Circle Line or not, okay, but when were you guys the most uncool, and what will you say to yourself? I mean, since you've all clearly evolved over this project, so so when was this? When do you find this was the most uncool, and what will you then say to yourself?
I'm the most uncool according to my wife, when I had the long hair when I was shooting Circle
Oh, really? Yeah.
yeah, she hated it to the core.
Oh,
She was
interesting.
like, she really hated it. Like, and she was not alone. A lot of producers have told me to cut my goddamn hair at that
You
time,
Oh,
can't.
and
You're
I was like,
haunting.
no, I just don't want to cut, I don't want to cut. I was in that phase, and then just rebellious phase, and I thought I looked okay. I didn't think I looked good, but I thought it was not so bad. But looking back, that was
was it
when
a
I was pretty
director's
damn uncool.
specification? Was
No,
it
no,
JD's
no, no. JD
specification?
wanted me to cut as well.
Oh, I see, I see, I
Yeah,
see.
yeah,
But
they wanted
in
me to cut as well. Yeah, but then I
okay,
was just like, the more someone asks me to do something,
So, is that
I'm
your
just
vibe,
not
Andy?
cool lah.
Is that
Not
your vibe?
cool.
The more someone has to do something, the less motivated you feel to
That's
do it.
my vibe. Even if they want me to be more cool, but I cannot do it.
So,
That's why that was my most uncool.
actually,
How
speaking
about
of
that?
vibe, I'm just very curious to know, right? If we were to go back and dig into your old school report cards, whether it be from the time you were in poly with JD or even before that, what would your teachers say about Andie Chen?
I think I was just insignificant. I was not super good. I was not super bad. I was just trying to find my place lah. And I was just a nobody. I felt like a nobody also. Um and only when I found film actually in FSV, that's when I started to find myself. That was the first time I actually felt like, hey, actually I'm not an idiot. Actually, like maybe there is something I can do, right? So I think that is what you will find lah. Any time before my FSV period, which is my diploma period, you can ask Juan. That's how we met, right? That's how we met, right?
yeah, Andy made a short film that was pretty good and prominent. So we kind of like kept in touch. Then it was yeah, FSV. I mean, again, yeah, all of us here from Yan also. Yeah.
So when
Mm.
were you the most uncool then? And what you
Me
say
ah,
to yourself? Yeah. And what you
wow,
say to yourself?
that's also tough, man. I think I'm always uncool when I maybe prioritize something beyond my own personal instincts. I don't know whether that sounds weird, but yeah. So okay, for example, like sacrificing maybe family time, maybe personal time for work, and then you realize that actually, what's the point, right? Obviously, some sacrifices, you definitely get a gain, right? And then you feel happy about it. But I think there are times when you ask yourself, wow, is them uncool to like maybe turn down, maybe a personal appointment, or maybe a date, or maybe time with your family, just so that you can actually pursue something that's work related and it doesn't work, right? So I think if I were to tell myself something, I guess I would say prioritize and keep focus on yourself first lah. I mean, again, harking back on Circle Line, yeah, I mean, it's been really tough, really blood, sweat, and tears, and health, and everything, right? So yeah, it's uncool to sacrifice too much. So I will tell myself, okay, you got to really prioritize your own needs first, lah. Health is wealth. Friends and family are important, right? That kind of thing. But it's very weird because as a producer, you're always go getting. So
And
I
it's
kind
very
of shoot myself in the feet, right? Yeah.
and it's very cheap also because I expected something like Andy, my hair very long. And you went to do this cheap.
Are you calling
But
me
so
superficial now? Huh? Are you?
no, but on that note, I guess there's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears on about Circle Line. Let's go make it worthwhile. Everyone should go catch it. Of course, and help support them from the 5th of Jan. And so, Andy, what are you up to next? Or what's up for you now? After, of course, we
Uh,
all catch Circle Line. When can we catch you next?
I have a Chinese drama coming up on Channel 8 called Mi Zai. But I think early next year. I'm on a couple of projects in Taiwan right now. And I might be back maybe March, April for another one or two projects in Singapore as well. So we'll see how it goes. Yeah.
So we look forward to that. And of course, we can follow what Andy does and on his socials, which is
At Andie Chen, ANDIECHEN on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Yeah.
okay. And what's your and if and for Circle Line, if you want to follow Circle Line, and of course, if you want to follow you, John, what are the where can they do so on? What socials are there?
I think the socials is Circle Line the movie. I think Circle Line is also on Facebook and IG. My IG is interesting. My IG is Juan Foo Fighting. Yeah, because I think
Everybody was
forever be
drunk for
fighting.
fighting.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, you carbon date yourself, sell liao. Yeah. So that's me. But I'll be more than happy to engage and chat about the learning journey of Circle Line lah. I mean, for me, it's always been like that. It's always let's do one film so that we can do another film and learn from it. I mean, it's tough or whatever, but yeah, stories are important, and let's feed the mainstream audience lah. I think the mainstream audience will enjoy genre. They'll enjoy certain escapism and certain levels of scale lah. Yeah, yeah. So I don't know what's the next thing, but I think let's see how far this one can go lah.
And
Yeah.
hopefully not going to be years and years before we see your work
Hopefully
again.
not. Hopefully not. Hopefully not. Yeah, yeah. Looking out for the next adventure.
Yeah. Okay, or maybe just end up becoming an accountant, like you said.
Yeah, yeah. If you see me making the accountant kind of switch, you know lah. I know times have changed there.
All right, thanks a lot, everyone. So, of course, catch Circle Line. I'm super excited about it. That's the uncool thing to do this month. Of course, it would be cool if you even cooler if you will catch it. And on the note of watching, well, thank you all for watching today. Also, catch our old episodes. Drop us a 5-star rating. Leave us a review. And just support us because it's cool to be uncool.
And that was the uncool thing to do this month. If you or your business has a show, an event, or a product launch, an initiative, or even any activities coming up, you can reach out to us at contact@creatorsatwork.asia to share it on the show. Other sponsorship and collaboration possibilities are available too. Meanwhile, don't forget to drop us a comment, rate us 5 stars, and subscribe to our channel. And remember to stay uncool.
Like this show? Then rate it 5 stars and subscribe to us on YouTube, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Uncool is a podcast by creatives at work. It is produced, written, and hosted by Sean Lee Win Cheong and co-hosted by Yenling Lo, co-produced by Raven Lim, and edited by Ray Ng. Uncool. It's cool to be uncool.